That makes no sense. I guess they're all backwards. There we go.
That was a real can pop. Welcome to Season 5 of Beerfield Fantasy Football. I should probably make it to where you can see our pretty faces. I am your host at Hop BFF with 2 P's. I am Chris Hopper. I am joined by Dan Thury BFF with 2 F's. We are Beerfield.
Jeez, that was great. That was a lot of stumbling through.
There's a lot of dancing through an intro I've done.
A lot of dancing. You were like ducking and weaving. It was wonderful.
Well, 339 episodes, we'll get a smooth entry at some point.
We'll never get it. I mean, I think at this point, if we somehow put it together for a full episode, we're just gonna break everything. Like, we're gonna be like Kim Kardashian's butt. We're just gonna break like the world. They're like, holy fuck! Do you guys see those 2 white guys on the show? They got it all done properly. It was fucking magical.
Yeah, I had Zoom wrong too. So I mean, that day is not today. That day is not today.
So I know people are like, man, why is who is that number 12 for the Ravens? Rashad Bateman has tweeted out his chosen number. So I get this horrifically beautiful Photoshop job of Rashad Bateman.
Horrifically beautiful.
Horrifically beautiful.
It's
all right.
It is all right. All right. Speaking of things that are all right, we're going to do a show today. But before we do that, a couple things I want to get to. First off, Dan, you're on a hot streak today, apparently.
I am.
I mean, apparently you fixed a sink and ordered pizza. So, yeah. I mean, you're doing good.
So spoiler alert, we ordered Head West instead because she came back downstairs and was like, I don't want pizza. I was like, okay. She goes, why don't you order the food?
Well, did you fix a sink? Because I fixed a sink, which means I should get what I want.
You should. And so we order Head West. She does the laundry, and I go upstairs and I unclog part of the sink. It's not fully fixed yet. It's a lot of shit down there, man. It's like 9 years worth of hair.
That's gross.
All other sorts of like it looked like fucking what's her face from The Ring.
Oh,
like that's what
I was gonna go with Ryan Fitzpatrick shaved his beard, but okay.
I mean, we can also go with that. I mean, it's all dark and it's all full of like steel and like residue and grime, and I'm sure all sorts of fucking pubes and hair and Drano in there. It just, I know people out, they're eating dinner listening to the show and they're just like, man, it's one thing I want to hear while I'm trying to eat my pasta. My salad is pubes and beard hair.
You're fixing things and I'm taking chunks out of my wall by trying to get a feel for new discs.
I'm so happy that you love disc golf as much as I do. Well, you'll probably get there.
I would if I played more.
We need friends.
I need friends.
We need friends that get you closer. I'm sure if you do, they have league play up here. I wondering if Collinsville or anyone.
I'm sure if they do, but I'd want to be a little bit better before I did that.
Oh fuck that! There were some people we played with last night that weren't great. So it's all about drinking and having.
It is about drinking and having fun.
It's like our podcast. We're not good at it, but fuck it, we drink.
We drink and we have
fun.
Exactly. Now I did order my first 8. I ended up ordering 8, and probably would have ordered a couple more because I'm like, I'm going to spend $100 to start this thing off, which actually gets you a long way with that hobby.
Yeah,
and turns out I accidentally bought 2 $30 bags, so I probably could have done more.
I mean,
but then again, that math doesn't work out. So maybe they just gave me a free bag.
maybe they gave you a free bag. You can probably check your itemized receipts, through your email if you did email.
I probably could. I don't know. I got 2 bags, but 8 discs, and I was keeping them between the $9 and $12 range. So I mean, a $30 bag. I mean, that doesn't add up to me accidentally buying 2 bags. So I must have just gotten a freebie on accident.
You might have. And what's
cool.
Maybe great is when you go into these hobby shops and start to feel all the different plastics and there are some expensive discs.
There are. That's what drove me back to online, because I actually did go in to play it again down here, but everything was in the most things there were in the $14 to $16 range. So I handled some things and got a feel for some things and whatnot. But ultimately, that's a good idea. Ultimately, then I went online and ordered some different things and cheaper and We'll do an episode on this, because I spent a couple hours figuring out what numbers and stuff meant.
Oh man,
and whatnot. So
we may have to film us playing, have someone come out and just film Beerfield does
disc golf
around a disc golf.
That would actually be cool to just give somebody a GoPro to follow us around for that, and then cut it up and edit it, because there's some shit that's gonna happen. I mean, last time we played, I lost one in a goat pen. So
all right, so listeners. Legit truth. So, we're down there for the, I'm down there, for the draft. We're in Collinsville, Illinois. The day after, because I got a headache, we didn't drink much on the draft. It was, the draft was pretty chalk. It is what it is. So we go out there, we start playing disc golf. We get to hole 14. There's a legitimate fucking goat pin. There's like 6 of them, right?
It was on 14 and 15
and 16.
Yeah.
It was like a 3-0 stretch.
3-hole goat
pen. Of course, this is Hopper's 3rd time playing in 6 years. I gave him my disc. I gave him my fiance's disc that she uses. He goes, I got this. First available tree into the pin. Thankfully, the first one, lands by the fence. So you can grab it, which we're not supposed to do. But, fuck it.
Whatever. I can reach in.
We get to hole 16 then, and you got to go. It's it's perfectly set up for a backhand shot, right? The pin's to the right. You have all this wide open shit to the left. And what does he do? He fucking pulls it, and it goes right into the middle. And he was like, well, I lost her disc to the pig. Or I lost her disc to the goats.
And to her credit, I mean, she was super cool about it. They probably needed it more than I did. And I tried to throw Dan money for it. I don't care. She got it for free. But
she got it for free.
Good story that, that one went to the Drew Lock pen.
I mean, we have Drew Locks in there. We have Tom Brady's in there.
We did name.
We have Cooper Kupp.
We did name the goats.
We did, and we actually had a Kalen Balaj in there, but he was kind of sleeping. So.
Man,
what a start! Despite the typical difficulties, we had. It's been a good start to the show so far.
Has been a good start to the show so far. It's only going to get better, I think. All right. First off, though, before we get more into this, we're going to go through the draft, and we didn't. I made an executive decision because we tried to chat about how are we going to do this episode, and I think we both just decided, fuck it, we'll do it live. We're going to do it different than we've done in years past. Years past, we've done some things by position. We've done the draft recaps by rounds, usually doing 1, 2, and 3 in the first episode, and then 4 through 7 in UDFA in the second. And then, we may have another series of episodes where we actually break down rosters and teams. Well, this time I want to try to combine those two things. That way we have more airspace to fill in the summer with some fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through the NFL draft by team through kind of not really a grading scenario. We won't obviously talk about everybody. We don't know defense or anything like that, so unless it's an obvious boon, we'll ignore it. But we're going to go by team. We're going to start with the AFC this episode. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go through by team. And the reason we're going to start with the AFC and not the NFC is because I had a stat I had something I really wanted to look up. So I did that research, and then I'm like, cool, we should do the NFC first. Both of our teams our favorite teams are NFC. Our secondary teams are AFC. I'm like, but then I have to wait another week to use the stat, and I don't want to do that. So we're doing the AFC.
Okay.
It's one of 4 times a year I do any research. So,
I mean, that's about as much as I do outside of my own, Debbie research.
Yep. All right. Before we start any of that, though,
What's fueling Beerfield?
oh, what do you got, Dan?
I am drinking Revolution Straight Jacket. So I was digging through the cooler today, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't know what I want." I was able to find some new like Coastal Sunshine, but we've had enough, heavily fruited sours on this show. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do a barrel-aged barley wine. Straight Jacket is a bourbon barrel-aged barley wine from Revolution. I believe it clocks in at, I think, 14.2. That sounds about right. 15%. Okay. I've had this before. I absolutely love this beer. But I want to get it on for you guys, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I think about it later on the show.
So I'm going like polar opposite end of the spectrum. We did
you doing fucking Pilsner?
No, I'm doing a cream ale. So
okay.
we and here's why. So the last two nights I had on Tuesday night an admin meeting for St. Louis Bourbon Society, another one of my side hobbies. I've talked about it before. We had an admin meeting, and those are usually 3 to 4 hours and go off the rails. And I put a hurtin' on some Woodford Reserve that night. Like here, the good part about having this down there is I can do this now. If you're on YouTube, treat. So,
boom.
So this bottle was about up there when I started. So,
you had a good a quarter of the bottle. It looked like maybe a little less, but that's still a lot.
Yeah, and then last night we had a tasting with Freddie Johnson of Buffalo Trace, which is, first off, he's awesome. If you haven't seen the documentary Need on Hulu and you like bourbon at all, go do it. He's featured heavily in that. It's honestly something that, Dan, when you come down here again in a couple weeks, we may pull up the YouTube recording and just taste through it because I have just about everything that we need to do it.
I like that. That's a great idea.
And so you can taste through it with them and show like just some of the, calls them journeys he takes you on, going back and forth between them. But last night I did basically 3/4 ounce pours of Weller Special Reserve, OWA, Blanton's, White Dog, Eagle Rare, and regular Buffalo Trace, on top of Hancock Reserve, which I was drinking on the side. On top of, I drank about 1/4 of a bottle of Blanton's as well.
Jesus.
So, last two nights have been a little rough, which is a long way to say I'm drinking a cream ale tonight. This is called Locals Only. It is from somewhere in Rhode Island because it says brewed in Rhode Island right on the front of the can. I don't know where. It just says brewed in from Rejects Beer Co. So, Morgan hooked me up with this when I was up there, cleaning some things out of his fridge. So, I'm a big fan of cream ales. Needed something a little lighter tonight, let my body kind of recover a little bit. So, yeah, we're going with cream ale. All right, let's get into some news before we get into the draft. Lots to talk about. We talked about it a bit on the live stream. So there's two sagas now that we're following in the offseason. One of them is the Deshaun Watson saga, and the other one is the Aaron Rodgers saga. Latest updates on that. NFL Network's Mike Garofalo reports Aaron Rodgers has been telling Green Bay free agents who will not be with the team in 2021. Green Bay is upset that other teams may have tampered with Aaron Rodgers. When the news broke, he was unhappy. And Ian Rappaport is reporting that the release of Jake Kummerow was the death knell in the relationship just 24 hours after Rodgers publicly praised him. So it seems like Gutekunst, who has refused to trade Rodgers, is kind of going out of his way to give him a middle finger.
Yeah, he's the Bulls old GM, one that he compared it to.
Jerry Krause.
Yeah, Jerry Krause, R.I.P. But still, yeah, it feels like that whole thing that he did to Pippen, and Rodgers is far more important to the franchise. I mean, not to say that Pippen wasn't. Sorry, Bulls fans, don't come at me.
Yeah,
Rodgers is a little bit more important.
The quarterback position's more important.
Yeah, just a bit. And it seems like this relationship is like,
unless
I read somewhere that the only way that he come back is if they fire the GM.
Right. And if you're if you're, they don't have owners technically. I mean, they do, but they're publicly traded. But if you're, making decisions for the Packers, I would think you fire the GM before you let Aaron Rodgers go.
That should have happened.
GMs are a dime a dozen.
That should happen like 15 minutes. 15 minutes before
any of this happened.
Say, you're gone. What we want to keep our franchise QB and maybe go to another Super Bowl. Fuck it. I don't need this old white guy.
Yeah, or the alternative is then, you keep your franchise QB another probably 1 to 2 years and go to a Super Bowl, and then he retires, and you have a GM in place to do a rebuild. He's probably going to get fired during the rebuild. That's normally how it goes.
That's normally how it goes.
Unless you're somehow Howie Roseman. Or you can, on the alternative, let me keep my GM and let my franchise QB get pissed off, sit out, maybe go into early retirement to host Jeopardy, and then I'm going to rebuild earlier while Devontae Adams is still in his prime, and we have Aaron Jones. And, some nice pieces on defense. For a GM that's probably going to get fired in 2 years anyway. I mean, the quarterback just seems to be a more important piece to a franchise than a general manager.
As myself a Vikings fan and yourself a Bears fan, I'm fucking loving this, right? Like, we've had to endure Brett Favre into Aaron Rodgers. And then we're just I'm salivating, right? We're waiting. Jordan Love right there, right?
And they don't have anybody else. It is Jordan Love.
Nobody else.
That's it.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the day where Green Bay finishes bottom of the division, not because of injury to their quarterback, but because their quarterback fucking sucks.
Right.
And I can just rejoice in the struggles of them trying to find their next franchise quarterback, the way that our franchises have struggled to find ours.
Yep. No, I am totally with you on that. So stay tuned with that. Wrapping that up. We talked about it there. Do you think he plays for the Packers this year?
No, I think if he doesn't get traded, he is going to sit out. That dude's got piles of cash, right?
And it's not like Jeopardy is a bad salary. It's not NFL quarterback money, but it's not,
It's more job security post, age 45.
Yeah,
so.
It's not what, we're making either. So.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think he is, barring GM being canned. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Detroit released running back Kerryon Johnson. Couldn't overcome the injury bug. He'll be intriguing if he lands anywhere that has some opportunity. Because he is talented. He is good. He just couldn't stay healthy. And they said, okay, we're going to go a different route. DeAndre Swift. So
this screams Atlanta.
Jets.
The Jets. I don't think he goes to Miami. I think the Dolphins told us they're fine with Gaskin.
I think they did too. Tennessee signed former Falcons running back Brian Hill. He'll compete with Darrington Evans to back up Derrick Henry. That's mostly important in handcuff news. But, like pink fuzzy handcuffs, not real ones.
Right.
Vegas signed cornerback Casey Hayward, formerly of the Chargers. This is important because Hayward was locked down before having an injury-riddled 2020 season, so that's definitely something to be aware of. If he comes back healthy and returns anywhere close to form, it gives them a true number one cornerback.
It'd be nice for them.
Yeah, Buffalo picked up the fifth-year option on Josh Allen because, duh. Seattle declined Rashad Penny's fifth-year option. So this is important because if you get a stock rise in Rashad Penny during this season, which is highly likely that at some point Rashad Penny's stock is high, sell.
Well, yeah, I mean that's I want to see where he lands. Because you can't be like he's a first round draft like he's missed multiple years due to injury.
Right.
Granted, the guy hasn't had a shot because he's been hurt the entire time. And when he's played, he's been efficient. But Seattle's been a fairly efficient run sheet offense, so
yeah,
you can kind of figure out why. But I don't see a way where Rashad Penny is relevant unless he lands in a very wide open backfield or he gets signed mid-season due to some sort of team losing their starting running back.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, they didn't release him. I mean, he's in Seattle this year.
That's right, he is.
Yeah,
that's right. My bad.
They just didn't pick up his fifth-year option. So what I'm saying is he's in Seattle this year. there's going to be a game or two where he blows up. But what you know, and what we've learned over the last couple of years, is that if you aren't established, you're not guaranteed to go to a place where you're going to produce or to go to a place where you're going to get any form of shares. Going as a running back going into your second contract, especially one with injury history, if you still have Rashad Penny on your roster and you get a sell window, to me, there's no question that you take it. And it's not just because of my feelings towards Rashad Penny. It is literally what they're saying by not picking up his fifth-year option is, we're not sold on this. If he's hurt again, he's done. If he's not hurt again, then you're worried about a running back that doesn't necessarily have a giant track record going into your next option. So
they also sign or re-sign, Chris Carson. I think it was, I think it was a 2 or 3 year deal, probably team friendly,
right?
But it's a team friendly as one can be for running back. The hope is that Penny is that something happens to Carson, he gets hurt, he misses time, and then Penny, who only has to beat out DJ Dallas.
Not hard.
Between those two, Penny's probably good enough to do that even with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move him, and then he's and he's Alex Collins and Justin Forsett.
And in this landscape, you may not
just another guy.
Yeah, and in this landscape, you may not even have to wait for Carson to get hurt to move him because Seattle freaking runs the football. Even if they're in a split backfield, you still may get enough capital to move Penny for something decent. So
yeah, no, I agree with that.
Just if you have watch for that window. Atlanta picked up Calvin Ridley's fifth-year option. They declined Hayden Hurst. That's pretty much expected.
When you spend the 4th overall pick on the tight end of the future, there's
with
no
Kyle
need
Pitts,
to keep
you're not keeping Hayden Hurst. Denver acquired quarterback Teddy Bridgewater from Carolina for a 6th-round pick. Vic Fangio is planning 50-50 reps for Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater across the offseason and training camp. Did go on to clarify that may not mean 50-50 every day, but by the end of training camp, he expects them to be even 50-50. So it sounds like they're trying to put Drew Lock into a situation where there's a quarterback competition that he can win, but if he doesn't, you've got a high-floor quarterback there.
Yeah, there is a relationship past with Patton. He's the one that pounded the table for the Vikings to draft him in 2015. Who stayed with him. Obviously, Patton's underneath the Rick Spielman tree. So there, again, relationships. This is going to be the battle that nobody wants to talk about because outside of Chris here, no one else believes in Drew Lock, and because of how we operate in this show, we're going to highlight the fuck out of this QB battle.
Yeah, we are. Because
nobody else would want to.
Teddy Bridgewater showed, in Carolina, he's like game manager plus. I don't want to say he's just a game manager because I think he is better than that. I think he helped that team overachieve a bit, and he's very, very intelligent, high football IQ guy. He's bounced back nicely, and you're happy to see it, but I think there's no arguing that if Drew Lock can harness and tap into the potential that he has, that he should be able to win that quarterback battle. But if he doesn't progress in the offseason, he does stay Drew Lock, basically, then Teddy very well could be the starter going into the season. So it's a move to get Drew Lock to try to push him to tap into that potential that we know he has that he hasn't shown yet.
I feel like we have to do a bet on who starts week 1. We'll hash out the details, but we got to do something. If Drew Lock starts, I do something happens to me.
Let's make it in training camp as we start to hit hype season and see the news and make sure somebody doesn't pull away. Let's get through the off season and stuff first.
That's fair.
And then let's do it at the beginning of training camp.
It doesn't have to be anything like egregious. It's more for fun.
We'll have some fun with it.
Oh, hell yeah. Because that's going to be the thing that Beerfield cares most about.
Yeah. Kansas City signed Jerick McKinnon. So, there will be somewhat of a fight for reps there.
Nah.
Behind Edwards-Helaire. But it is meh. You're right. Yeah. Baltimore exercised Lamar Jackson's 5th-year option because, duh. Carolina picked up the 5th-year option on Sam Darnold. So that's at least mildly interesting that they did that. That tells you that they have enough faith in Darnold. They waited until after the draft. Sounds like if somebody had fallen to them, they probably would have taken it. Somebody did, but they didn't do it.
I don't think they were going to. I think what made it sound like only 2 quarterbacks would have probably pulled the trigger for them, and that's Lawrence and Wilson. Would be my guess. Maybe Trey Lance, maybe.
But it wasn't going to be Wilson or McCorkle. So
I don't even know if it.
Not
I
Wilson,
don't even know
Fields.
if Fields, Wilson. It may have been just Lawrence, and who knows? Maybe Carolina recognizes that Darnold has untapped potential,
and he does, and he's still very, very young. So you've said it before. Next year's quarterback class is not strong. So
it's not top heavy. It's got some
talent, but
top heavy. Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out. But,
right.
If you tap into Darnold's untapped potential, then, there's a chance that he's still young enough and better than people in that draft class.
Yeah, and it's not like they don't have weapons for them, right? DJ Moore, you draft, Terrence Marshall. You still have Robbie Anderson, obviously CMC.
Yep, and it's still a rookie deal. So it just tells you Darnold's going to get every shot to succeed in Carolina. And if he doesn't,
shot this year, exactly.
Yeah. Next year, yeah, they may bring in competition if he's bad and they're in a position to, but he's going to get at least every shot this year and potentially next year as well. So
I agree.
Even if they do draft somebody or bring somebody in next year, if he struggles, he's still at least, I would think, going to get a chance to compete next year given that. DJ Moore also had his 5th-year option exercise because, Giants picked up the 5th-year option on running back Saquon Barkley. If he's healthy, it makes sense. Tampa Bay signed wide receiver Antonio Brown to a 1-year deal for $3.1 million. Saw a note on target percentages for Tampa Bay after they signed Brown. It was 19 to Godwin, 20 to Evans, and 16 or so to AB. So,
God, it's so gross. Why?
Yeah.
You have Tyler Johnson and even Scotty Miller, and you're we got to bring back
Antonio Brown. Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense to me. I get it. I'm overly high on Tyler Johnson, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and OJ Howard coming back. So
I think did Gronk resign?
Gronk resigned, and Cameron Brate restructured his contract. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. For fantasy, it's going to be Godwin, Evans, take your dart throw on whoever is going to be the 3rd option. We'll get more into why that is here in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and talk some NFL draft. And like I said, we're going to do AFC, and I would like to start with the North, if it pleases the co-host.
Let's do it. Let's talk about one of my favorite teams.
Yep, let's do it. Where did that tab go? I'm not waiting for you to lead off. I'm trying to figure out where my tabs are.
No, you're good.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with Baltimore. I'm just going to go in order here. So, Baltimore's draft, let's start. First round pick, they end up getting Rashad Bateman at pick 27. So, first off, this is about where we expected Bateman to be drafted. Is this back into the first or very early in the second? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, this also sets it up for Lamar Jackson to have somebody that's got true number 1 potential, which is what truthers have been pounding the table for. And, I shouldn't say truthers because if you're down on Lamar Jackson, the overall profile of Lamar Jackson, then I don't know what the hell you're looking at. But if you're down on Lamar Jackson's passing, the argument has been, who has he had? Well, now he's got Bateman, and they picked up Tylan Wallace in the 4th, who's also another highly athletic receiver. Wallace is more similar to draft picks they've made in years past, where he's highly athletic and had some productivity, but he's far from a sure thing. Whereas Bateman feels like more of okay, this is your guy, so figure out how to use him. And Greg Roman has said they're going to throw more. So, could be coach speak. Overall, we both like Bateman. And, Dan, I know you're a Ravens fan. You're super happy with this for fantasy, there's really two schools of thought here. One, who else is there? I mean, there's a couple other guys. You, of course, got Hollywood there. Mark Andrews. But two, are they going to pass enough, and is Jackson going to, progress enough to make Bateman, a top 24 guy in year one?
So here's really what this pick kind of entails. We knew that the Ravens are one of the most predictable teams in football because they are the most efficient running team with very little, I guess, sexiness to their passing game. Mark Andrews can't stay healthy, and he's got the case of the droppies every year. Marquise Brown can't stay healthy, and he's a good number 2, number 3 option, not a number 1. Number 1's like Willie Snead. Something's going wrong. So no one should be shocked that Baltimore spent this pick on there. No one should be shocked that it's a guy like Bateman who comes into the league as one of the more pro-ready wide receivers, one of the smartest rookie receivers. He just understands, and he plays the position extremely well. He's not elite at probably anything. He's great at a lot of things, and we've seen receivers like that be successful. But it's not about Lamar Jackson all of a sudden becoming the new Josh Allen. It's that Baltimore recognizes they have to be unpredictable. They got to be more aggressive on first and second down, and you don't do that with the receiving core they had last year. You do it now with the investment. Some teams just make it fucking easy for us, right? Buffalo spends significant draft capital in a trade to get Stephon Diggs without us even knowing where Josh Allen stood on his improvement as a passer. They told us, and then they showed us that. Obviously, that gets coupled with the massive improvement from Josh Allen, and you get a near MVP type of season. That's not going to happen to Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Baltimore has a far stronger running game, has an equal defense, but this should at least boost the numbers. It should help boost the efficiency because Lamar Jackson's still that unique quarterback. You just you have to almost have a spy on him. You have to have an extra guy up in the box. You got to have his own dedicated player, effectively. And if he does take the next step, he's going to have a lot of single coverage for his good to great to potentially elite playmakers.
Yeah, I mean, and your good to great ones right now, I think, are Bateman definitely has the potential to be that, and
he's
and Mark, and Mark Andrews. I mean, you would still like for them to have something else there, but I think until Jackson progresses, I mean, obviously Hollywood's going to go deep. He's another guy that we could talk about. Does he possess into a more consistent weapon and a deep threat now that there's another consistent wide receiver? Person there to potentially be a consistent receiver.
Yeah, it just depends if Jackson's going to actually push the football. That's going to be the biggest thing is that how does Jackson respond to more passing plays being called? Is he going to run more? Or is he going to, be able to take advantage of it?
And where does he go with it? I mean, because Bateman can run a lot of intermediate stuff. Andrews, we know, is going to be more short to intermediate. So he'll
also work his seams.
He'll work the seam, yeah. And Hollywood's obviously going to be your deep threat. So how does that play?
I do like Tylan Wallace here. As their, I think they'll probably put Wallace maybe in the middle, in the slot, and have Brown kind of be your true Y, your true deep. Because fuck it, we're going lawn, type of situation.
Right on. No, I can certainly see that. So I like Tylan Wallace. I believe I gotta go actually search for him here. I believe he's the guy that profiled well. Yeah, he did. He's actually was profiled as a guy whose tape I needed to watch, but I didn't get to. 5'11", 194 though, hyper athletic, qualified with basically everything but his speed score. So he does profile more as a slot guy, given his size and his athletic profile. Absolutely did produce at the college level. So. He's a guy that you don't want to sleep on, but, the Ravens also still have some other pieces there as well. Now, the other question about Bateman is going to be, so in rookie drafts, where do you put him now? Because he was, I think most of us probably had him as 3 or 2 going into this draft. He was definitely in that tier. Jalen Waddle and Kadarius Toney go ahead of him. Now, I know we ain't moving Toney up.
I'm not moving Bateman.
I'm not moving Bateman either. So
he's still my number 2. Jamar Chase is still firmly number 1 in his own tier. I'm intrigued by the Smith and Waddle landing spots. I don't give a fuck. I'll respect Toney's first round draft capital for redraft leagues. I don't care about him in Dynasty. I just don't think he's good enough.
I don't either.
That offense is going to implode within the next couple of years. And then it won't fucking matter what his draft capital is. For this year, sure. Beyond that, no. But as for Bateman, he's not moving for me.
Right. No, he's not moving for me either. So here's my 3 going into this. He's in the same tier as Devonta Smith. I think the opportunity share for Smith might be slightly better, but
I think they're pretty much equal.
They're pretty much same tier for me. So
I would lean Lamar Jackson as a better passer right now than Hurts. Hurts, you could see them flip-flop around, or they could be about the same. I would go with what I know from Jackson, and against even the small sample,
which
what we got last year from Hurts.
Yeah, which isn't saying much. But
no, it's
All right, I don't know what I just did, but I clicked something wrong. Anyway, so I will eventually figure out how I sorted my damn tabs. There it is. So other than that, they went linebacker, offensive guard. Not really a lot to talk about there. Guard should help the line. So not much else on the draft front to talk about. No. They went wide receiver, linebacker, guard, cornerback, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive, and fullback. Ravens are a team with not a ton of holes. And in the UDFA class, quick check on that. Nobody really that has a... Tony Poljan is probably the most interesting one there. He was a tight end that came out of... I forget where. But if I'm remembering right, Poljan was a guy that... I think he was a former quarterback. He was 6'7", 251. So, big boy there. He's probably the most interesting UDFA pickup they did.
Nice. I don't
have anything about McCrary or Silencio. I can't even say his name.
Not even concerned about the rest of them.
No, but Poljan's got good size, if anything. So, he's... Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So, next up here, we're going to go to Cincinnati. So, first off, at their first overall pick, number 5 in the first round, they take Jamar Chase. So, a lot of talk on this one, and you had basically said, and I agree with you entirely, that there's 2 things they could do there, and one decision was clearly better than the other one, even though neither of them were bad. I don't think either of us were in the Bengals draft Jamar Chase court.
I mean, we knew,
but I think if we were the GMs of that franchise, that would not have been where we went with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been Sewell.
It would have been.
But you can't hate the Chase pick either, because what you have now in Cincinnati from an NFL perspective is one of the best sets of skill players that, at least as far as wide receivers and your running back goes, that exist in the league.
This is the best. This is the most upside, I think, receiving room. It's not the best right now, right? Probably still Tampa Bay or Dallas, maybe. Probably Tampa Bay. Cincinnati, I think, has the biggest ceiling, though. And this could be, if Burrow stays healthy, the offensive line that got hurt last year stays healthy and improves, which a lot of us expected to.
So,
combined with a pretty poor defense and a strong division. Sky's the limit. I think Burrow was on pace for like 600 passes before he got hurt.
Right, but so here's the argument. Who are you fading? Out of the 3 wide receivers, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon at running back.
I'm not fading Mixon. Mixon, I mean, I don't know how much you can believe, the coaching staff's there, but they've came out and pounded the table saying they're not taking Mixon off the field.
On third down, yeah.
He's staying on the field. I don't know if that means he's going to get pounded to the ground. They probably want some semblance of balance, at least early on, to try to protect Burrow. But And that kind of goes in hand with their 6th-round pick of Chris Evans, which was, a lot of film guys were on his radar.
Sure.
Especially as a nice backup to Mixon. Not a Geo that should supplant them on 3rd downs every now and then, but a strict backup.
Okay, so who are you fading out of the wide receivers then?
I want to say Boyd, but I think it's going to be Higgins. It just depends how much it depends how much Burrow, how much he wants to rely on Chase from the chemistry built from college, and then the slot, have the easier coverage than the 2 outside guys generally, and they generally run the shorter line of scrimmage type of routes, to where the old line is struggling. Burrow's going to push it short and not try to push it deep consistently. So I think I'd probably fade Higgins. But it's a toss-up for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the fade Boyd front, and they're going to
want to be there with you. I really
so there are going to be people out there, by the way, that are very, very much, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. I've got them all, I've got all 3 wide receivers in my top 24, and I've got this running back in my top 15.
That's right.
Do you believe that that's correct and that can happen?
No, I think Mixon for sure
is top 15.
To me, he's top 10.
He is, but for the sake of what I'm about to throw out there, we went top 15.
He's easy top 15.
Yes.
I think it's smart to fade all the receivers based on ADP right now from the best balls I've done. They're all kind of, maybe not Higgins. And Chase is going extremely high for a rookie receiver.
It's going to be a situation to pick your guy. But the reason I say if you've got them all top 24, you're wrong, is this. There have been 2 teams. I went back to 2012. There have been 2 teams that have had 3 wide receivers finish in the top 24 of fantasy football. The first one is the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I was going to say them.
Johnson was 23, Claypool was 19, Juju was 18, and I think week to week you weren't necessarily happy with having any of them. Just given who it was on any given week. They were good enough to all sneak in there, but they're all at that fringe area to where they were not anything you would consider consistent, and Big Ben threw 600 times. Now, they also had no running back place anywhere near the top 15. So, throw that out the window if you're looking for comparisons. The only team that has put 3 wide receivers in the top 24 and a running back in the top 15 and a quarterback in the top 12, because Ben was QB 14 after that, 2013 Denver Broncos.
Historic offense.
Yep. Wes Welker was 21. Eric Decker was 9. Demaryius Thomas was 1. Noshawn Moreno, there's a name for you, was the running back 4. And Peyton Manning was your QB 1. He threw 659 times.
I would find it shocking if anybody had even 2 of these guys ranked top 24. Maybe it just depends, right? We'll know more based off of what we hear from rookie OTAs, into rookie mini camps into OTAs. And
somebody gets hurt, it obviously changes the whole landscape. Heaven forbid, but
and we'll hear it from pressers. We'll hear from the coaches themselves with how they kind of want to see where the offense runs to. I think one of these guys gets top 24. One of them will probably get close. And then one of them will likely finish as a wide receiver 3-4. And Burrow will finish somewhere between probably 12 to 15.
Yeah, and you're certainly drafting all 3 of them because, one, if somebody's injured or out a week, then they're instantly week to week, top 24. I think Burrow definitely is going to be a lock to be a top 10 quarterback because that defense isn't going to be good. So you throw, pretty much count on him to throw 600 times, especially with that wide receiver core. But
I'm not taking him as a top 10 quarterback. But
no, I probably won't either. But
I don't think it depends. I mean, he should be ready by week 1.
Unless it's, well, Superflex notwithstanding, of course.
No, of course.
But
I wouldn't draft him in single QB leagues.
Yeah. And a lot of that's probably going to be because where the ADP is, too. So
exactly.
So other than Jamar Chase, they did go out and address the line. They picked up a 4th-round tackle in Dante Smith, a 6th-round center in Trey Hill, and a 2nd-round tackle in Jackson Carman out of Clemson. So they did give some line help to where, that could very well help this Bengals offense. I mean, if you tell me the Bengals offense is a top 10 offense in the league next year, I'm not going to be surprised.
I think
especially if the line can stay healthy, because that's been the problem there is injury.
I think if Burrow stays healthy and the playmakers, they only lose one. If they lose any, they lose one. I think this AFC North is going to be a difficult division. All 4 teams, besides, we'll see about Pittsburgh.
See about Pittsburgh.
I think all 4 teams have a very reasonable chance to go top 15 or to finish in the top 15 offense. And with Cincinnati's poor defense and having to try to play keep up, or like even having to throw when they're in leads because they don't have a good enough defense to make, to try to close out games. They have a good running game, but that's how bad the defense is.
Yep.
This could be a high scoring offense.
Yep. Now, they did do some things to try to help the defense. I don't know that it's enough. They went out and got, Von Bell. Jesse Bates is a 2nd-round pick in 2018. He's been fine. They went out and got Chidobe Awuzie out of Dallas. Trey Waynes is there now, as is Mike Hilton, Mike Hilton had been good in the past for Pittsburgh. Ricardo Allen in the secondary. And then they did spend a bit on draft capital on the defensive line. You got Sam Hubbard, who was a 3rd-round pick in 2018, still there. But DJ Reader, Larry Ogunjube, and then as far as their other draft picks, they took Joseph Ase out of Texas as a 3rd-rounder, Cameron Sample out of Tulane as a 4th-rounder, both pass rushers, and another pass rusher in the 7th, and Wyatt Hubert, as well as a defensive tackle and Tyler Shelvin in the 4th. So they made it a point to try to address the offensive line. You don't have to have high draft capital to be successful as a pass rusher and offensive lineman. Sorry, defensive lineman. I apologize. But given just the volume that they threw at that, you can tell that's a position they're trying to address and get better. And they did try to address the secondary through free agency. So the defense could at least be league average. They're not going to be elite, but you could see them take a step more towards average.
I can see that for sure.
And then you mentioned Chris Evans. He's immediately going to slot in. I believe is a running back, is potentially their handcuff. I mean, he's going to have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pulling up their depth chart here now.
Samaje Perine, Travion Williams, and Patrick Jacks, and then Puka Williams they signed as a UDFA, who's not an every down back. So
this should
he'll
easily
have
let Chris Evans, kind of solidify himself as the primary backup. I think through the end of preseason, I think he is the Joe Mixon handcuff.
Yep. Why did I not watch Chris Evans?
Well, you got wasted away in Michigan. So, again, Jim Harbaugh doesn't give a fuck about his high-end recruits. So, obviously, his best comparable, Damian Harris. Elite burst score, agility score, both upper 90th percentile.
Yeah, burst and agility were good. Spark score's good. 40 was passable. BMI's fine. 5'11", 211, so he's got decent size. Didn't produce.
Again, Michigan. And you don't expect much, 6th-round pick, but there's a lot of space, to be, made up behind Mixon.
Mixon's not a model for health, and all it takes is an opportunity at the running back position. And right now, they don't exactly have a deep backfield, so there's at least
I like this pick by them.
Yep, at least a chance there. A couple other notes. They did, good for them, take a punter as a UDFA. They picked up Pro Wells, who's a tight end out of TCU. Not good, just a good name. And then they Puka Williams out of Kansas is a guy that I think a lot of people like the tape and the agility and the speed of Puka. He's just really small. So
fucking tiny.
He's a guy that definitely could project as a scat back, but he also projects more as a slot type of gadget guy that probably is also going to be a special teamer, maybe a return specialist. So, he's a guy you could look at 4th round of your rookie drafts, but probably won't. So that's...
No, he'll be free. There's no need to spend.
If you're a rebuilding team, take a dart throw just in case he turns into something as a space guy.
He had 18 kickoff returns in college. There might be a special team spot for him.
It very well could be. All right, moving on to Cleveland. So Cleveland, we knew that they were going to address the cornerback position, and they did that. They took Greg Newsome, one of the consistent first-round cornerback mocks in this draft. They will now pair him with, I believe it's Denzel Ward. So
yes,
and
immediately
got better on
Williams.
Defense. Yeah, and Greedy. Oh yeah, they sent Greedy, didn't they?
Yeah, they drafted him last year.
So that's it. So yeah, they're immediately better on defense because of this. They also have John Johnson, the former Rams safety, that they added there. So just Cleveland's defense, like I have said 5 times, they got better in the secondary.
There's a reason why Cleveland is probably favored to win this division.
Yep. They also took Jock in the second round, so Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who a lot of people saw him as a first-round talent. He dropped into the second to them. So they did get – what's that?
I said late second. Well, I guess mid-second.
Mid-second. So
yeah.
They absolutely did add a pass rush specialist to try to help that out as well. That was another area where they could improve, but you partner him with the signing of Jadeveon Clowney and the return and Myles Garrett. So, defense, running game. Browns are going to be a very well-rounded team and should easily be a playoff team again.
I love their drafting of Anthony Schwartz.
Yeah.
I think that is going to complement what this team has been lacking, and that's a legitimate deep threat. Odell can't stay healthy, and they don't really have anybody else outside of him that can, help to push the defense. And you don't want Odell to be his role. So getting Anthony Schwartz, who is a legitimate track star, as your deep threat is
4.32.
Fantastic.
4.32 was his adjusted 40 time. Big old burst score and agility scores. He's an athletic freak. Didn't have the most productivity, but
he came from Auburn.
With
Bo Nix,
with Bo Nix, which is hard to watch. So completely offensive freak though for Anthony Schwartz. He's a guy that should slide up draft boards, I think, from where a lot of people have him. I mean, he's not going to slide up to be a first round or anything like that, but when you start to get into that second round, especially mid to late second round where the talent really starts to fall off, Anthony Schwartz should be near the top of that pool.
Yeah, he is a easy third round. Like, he's the guy you trade back for.
Yeah,
in the third round,
and could be happy with it because the Browns have been rumored for an Odell breakup too. So that's just guy you keep an eye on there. Other than that, not a whole lot else going on in their draft from a fantasy standpoint. Demetric Felton went in the 6th to them. That's not really worth anything. Actually was I believe, running back in.
He did both.
He did UCLA.
Both. He's not very athletic, but he does fill that unique role, and this could maybe be a small tipping hat to the future of maybe Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe moving on. I'm not saying Felton is not a Kareem Hunt replacement, but he can, fill in that, that elite pass catching role, from the backfield. You can operate out of the slot. So
yep. Other picks were spread out. James Hudson, offensive tackle. Tommy Toad whatever. I'm not even going to try. Defensive tackle. Tony Fields, an inside linebacker. So all pretty spread out there. As far as UDFAs, Trey Harbison, guy I've never heard of, didn't show up anywhere on my radar. And that's it from that perspective. So overall solid draft for Cleveland, though. They did a good job of taking the few and trying to plug the few holes that they had.
Great draft.
All right, let's move on to Pittsburgh and then wrap up this division. So, first round pick went on Naji Harris. So, first round running backs, hate on him if you want, and most people will. This is something that we all knew was going to happen, I think.
Yeah.
So, given the line problems there, does this move Naji out of the top spot for you at all?
No,
from a running back perspective.
They addressed this, they addressed this pretty much. You know, they take, Pat Fairmouth, which is obviously Baby Gronk nickname. You can do both.
How many people have had the Baby Gronk nickname over the last 7 years? I refuse to use it anymore.
But then they go on and they spend their third round pick and their first fourth round pick on 2 offensive line pieces. It's not going to be elite, but again, there's no competition in Pittsburgh. And at least for redraft purposes, Naji Harris should easily be the first rookie running back off the board, the first really rookie off the board. I think he's got a clear line of elite touches in year one.
He does. It might not be the most efficient or the most pretty, given that offensive line. It really depends on how some of their rookie picks pan out. They did take a rookie center out of Illinois with their third round pick in Kendrick Green. We know that Pat Freiermuth can block. Like, one of my notes on Pat Freiermuth, let me go find it because I know I had a note in here about his blocking that jumped out to me. Yeah, he moves people out of the way, basically. He is aggressive as a blocker, so that's going to help out the run game a bit. On top of the fact that, he's not a hyper-athletic tight end. He's certainly fine as a pass catcher. Actually, Heath Miller's who came to mind when I watched his tape. So
I as a tight end class early on that was touted as being elite, that saw that billing go to the wayside.
Real quick.
Freiermuth, at least round 2 draft capital, should be a starter. I at least see, a tight end 2 snaps. Maybe not be productive year 1, but I still like him. As a tight end premium, as probably a value. Like, I think this is a great landing spot. Pittsburgh's core is going to be shaken up by the time, Freiermuth starts to come into his own. So, and we don't know what his athletic profile didn't test. So he's a bit of a black box prospect from that standpoint, but he's a decent constellation and a value, in comparison to where you have to draft Kyle Pitts in your rookie drafts.
Speaking of draft names, as we mentioned earlier, they took a guy out of Wisconsin named Loudermilk, which is
Loudermilk.
Isaiah Loudermilk. He's a defensive tackle
with 2 H's.
Yeah, a defensive tackle out of Wisconsin with their 5th round pick. So that's pretty perfect.
Which H do you think is silent, or is it Isaiah? Isaiah Loudermilk. That sounds like a name that would be on Key and Peele.
It does. The fact that it is out of Wisconsin is pretty damn perfect too.
It is.
Took a couple wide receivers in the UDFA area. Not anybody worth mentioning. Isaiah McCoy and Rico Bussey are not people that have popped up. I feel like Rico Bussey's name's popped up the last 3 to 4 years as somebody who could come out, and I'm just tired of seeing it. So,
all right, where are we going to next?
So let's see. What's going to be the most fun? Southwest. Let's do the West next.
West? All right.
Yeah, let's do the West next.
Denver it is.
I'm going in ABC order if you can't figure it out.
Because it's easy for us.
Yeah, Denver it is. So, Denver's a team that doesn't necessarily have a ton of holes anywhere other than the offensive line, in my opinion. people were pounding the table for a quarterback. I didn't really ever think it was going to be a first-round quarterback. They do need to retool on defense a little bit, and Pat Surtain in the first round absolutely did that. J.C. Horn went ahead of Surtain, which I don't think a lot of us were expecting. But Surtain going to Denver with Kyle Fuller, yeah, you're not going to want to start a lot of wide receivers against them.
No, I was listening to the Road Underworld show. And they had, obviously Matt Kelly. He had on Josh Lucky, fan of the show, also show friend, and their boy Cody Carpenter. And they talked about, Cody brought up the fact that I think the reason why Denver passed on Fields is that they actually believe that they have a good enough defense, and obviously playmakers are very elite to help. Like, even if they get, Teddy type of production, if Locke doesn't hit, that this team could be, could push as they're all in. So I think that was his argument as the reason why they passed on Justin Fields. Well, I never would have, but it was a good argument to be made as to why Denver did.
Yeah, and I can see why they did. I mean, they brought in Darby out of Washington to be their nickelback. You now have Fuller and Surtain. They've got, if Bryce Callahan can be healthy, that's a hell of a top three from a cornerback perspective. Kareem Jackson coming out of Houston to the safety spot. Von Miller comes back healthy. Bradley Chubb. The defense is absolutely going to be good enough. Now, the other thing they did is they added Javonto Williams in the second round, which is a back that a lot of people love. It still, to me, keeps him at number 3. We'll have to see what happens with Melvin Gordon or how they play that. Javonto Williams, to me, at this stage, could potentially be an upgrade. It just depends on how the offensive line comes together with Javonto Williams being a between the tackles runner. But, defense and run the football. Fangio's that type of old school guy. So you got to love the Javonto Williams pick early in the second round. It's good draft capital for a back, too.
I mean, they moved up to take the 35th pick with them, traded back up. Like, I hated this pick because it's why trade up? Like, but anyways, the fact that he only has to worry about Melvin Gordon for year one, and it should be his backfield to himself next year when Gordon's contract's up and he's gone. He's going to be, I won't say good value, for rookie drafts. I think the weakness of his running back class is going to push up a lot of these guys, and Williams is going to go probably where he should. And that, mid to late, mid first and single QB, mid to late first and super flex. But a good offensive line when they're healthy, a pretty conservative running game, and a strong defense, you can equal pretty good game script when all else is equal. Obviously, they got to compete with Mahomes and Herbert, so not 4 of their games could be pretty rough in terms of pacing. But
right,
for fantasy wise, it was an okay landing spot for Williams. I'm still not high on him. I like him, and he would be one of the only 3 running backs that would take in the first round in rookie drafts if I wanted to go that route. But I've been pretty firm on the fade the draft class, the running back class beyond Harris and ETN pretty much. So
sure. No, I'm with you on that. So, and I agree with the assessment that even if it's not this year, there's a solid chance that he does have the backfield to himself next year.
He'll likely. So. I think there's a strong chance. There is a strong chance that Williams he takes over that backfield late season.
And yeah, I think he does. What's Gordon's contract situation? Is he cuttable? If they needed cap space?
Let me pull it up. We can talk about Seth Williams, which I think is a steal.
Seth Williams in the 6th round is a steal, value-wise. So kind of the less speedy, more traditional type of receiver out of that Auburn receiver duo. Seth Williams is who most people had higher. Now, he didn't end up getting drafted higher. He actually fell a bit There were some things in his tape that I didn't necessarily like about him, but 6'3", 211 pounds, athletically profiled very, very well. Speed score was there. Burst score was well up there. 4.5, 4.40. All of that's solid. 18 breakout age. Very, very good. Had a bad quarterback throwing him the football. So a little underproductive, but you can't really hold that against him when a lot of the problems were quarterback related. So, as far as the actual film goes on Seth Williams, I got to get to him. You wouldn't believe how many people are named Williams in a single draft.
Melvin Gordon's not going to get cut.
Okay, got
No
it.
saving.
Contested catch winner, strong hands, a little bit of fight after the catch, above average long speed. But overall, the burst didn't translate from the testing to the film. A little boring. Routes not necessarily refined. Like I said, it was a lot of close catches, a lot of contested catches. Didn't really flash any elite traits, but the good part is here he's not going to have to flash elite traits. He's going to have a chance to fall into whatever role is, I think, best for him. You got Cortland Sutton for sure looking like he's going to be back to start the season. That's your one. And what that's going to allow it to happen is it's going to allow Jerry Jeudy to fit more of a traditional number 2 role and be more of an intermediate possession guy and let you run and, hopefully Jeudy into the slot, and then it's going to let you run Seth Williams outside if you want to, but if he's not ready, it needs a little bit more seasoning, then you end up with Tim Patrick outside still. They took KJ Hamler last year. You have options here.
I think Williams is going to be strictly backup to Sutton. If Sutton doesn't, come back as strong as as one would hope early on, maybe Williams.
We're not going to do that again, are we? We're not going to repeat the Cooper Kupp situation.
No, I'm just saying. Kupp was pretty remarkable with not struggling early on historically, and then still struggled towards the end.
All of the same reports about Kupp that came out, being ahead of schedule, practicing, coming out about something.
First off, there's no need to rehash this.
We're gonna do it again.
I don't even think Seth Williams would be the one that would spell.
No, it'd probably be Tim Patrick again right now.
It'd be Patrick or Hamler. It just depends on what they want to run out that way. But I think that was their insurance. Was that's it's a 6th-round pick, right?
Right.
No one fucking cares.
So you're drafting him for his upside. It's a 6th-round pick that a lot of people liked.
Yeah.
But he's not necessarily going to be forced into duty here either. It's not a landing spot that has a ton of opportunity right off the bat. It doesn't figure to be a high-volume passing offense, and you have 3 to 4 people clearly starting off ahead of him, and 2 that are definitely ahead of him. So I would say 3 that are definitely ahead of him, given the way Tim Patrick's produced every time he's been given the opportunity. So it's not sexy, but it is an upside pick that, again, you look at as a 3rd-round type pick. Because there's actually draft capital in him. And it's a guy that a lot of the fantasy community like coming into the season. And that's a combination that you look for is there draft capital at all in those late rounds? Did a team see it? And how did everybody feel about it? And Seth Williams is a guy I think most people were high on. I particularly was not, but I see why you could be. I think I had him at 15th in the pre-draft process. That'll change, obviously. Haven't adjusted rankings yet. He'll likely, almost for sure, end up in the top 10 now. But
no, I have no clue how it's going to shape out. I don't think he would for me. But
in your top 10 rookies?
No, there's no way he would be top 10. Probably maybe top 15.
So it's just hard for me. De'Ami Brown's already ahead of him, so he's not going to jump him. So he'll probably move up. But, I mean, with Terry going undrafted, Tony, I have no faith in.
I have to put Tony. I'm like, he's gonna get. They're gonna manufacture touches for him this year.
He might be.
Seth Williams might not even make the team.
He might be 12 to 13 then. Which 12 to 13 in the wide receiver run is 3rd round early. So
we'll see.
We'll see.
Anyways,
Other people that they drafted, they did take a guard in the third round, which again is good because they definitely needed some more competition along that O-line to put together the best combination they could get. Other than that, just guys for the most part. Beyond the third round, linebacker and Barrett Browning out of Ohio State. Couple safeties in Caden Stearns and Jamar Johnson in the fifth round. And then sixth round and later, we're not even going to go into. As far as UDFAs go,
nothing.
Is there anybody interesting there?
No.
No.
I mean, these guys, 90%
actually
of the roster.
Yeah, the only one that is Warren Jackson, and it's just because he's huge. It's not because there was anything good about his tape or his profile. It's just that he's 6'6". That's it.
Yeah,
and
he's a big boy.
Move him to tight end because he profiles better there. All right, moving on. I believe Kansas City is next, if I'm doing this right. Yeah, Kansas City Chargers, Las Vegas. So.
Oh, nice. They're all right there for us.
They are. I'm assuming we're on the same sites now.
We are.
Okay. Kansas City, not really a whole lot to talk about. They did almost nothing to address the offense at all. Bolton at linebacker. They did take Creed Humphrey, which should automatically plug in on their interior line and help replace some of what they cut and or lost. Other than that, not really anything to talk about there.
They took just, two offensive skill players. And Noah Gray and Cornell Powell.
And
Cornell Powell, which I do not care about either of them.
I do not either.
Powell is whatever. I mean, it makes sense though, right? Because Kansas City
didn't need to add anybody.
They want to address the defense and the offensive line and addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kansas City might have a top 5 offensive line after, free agents and the draft.
Well, they do because Kyle Long came out of retirement. So you assume he's going to be healthy and good. Mike Rimmers right now is penciled in as their starting right tackle, so, that could be a hole.
They made a trade for Orlando Brown, which the only team that he wouldn't be the left tackle on was Baltimore, and that's why he got traded.
Right. But Joe Thuney, Austin Blythe, Kyle Long, Mike Rimmers, Creed Humphrey, yeah. And I think what they could honestly do is if they're not sold on Rimmers at right tackle, you kick Kyle Long out there because he played tackle for the Bears for a couple of years and plug Creed Humphrey in the middle. And that's going to give you your best starting 5. But, yes, they have a top offensive line for sure. Because you're a Vikings fan. You know all about Mike Rimmers. I'm a Bears fan. I also know all about Mike Rimmers. I love him, if that tells you anything.
So, Mike Rimmers.
Kansas City did nothing. They took Shane Bichelle, which he'll probably compete for a backup spot, I guess. It's Chad Henne, Jordan Ta'amu, Anthony Gordon, Shane Bichelle. So there will be some competition for a backup spot if they want to move on from the veteran Henne. But, not a lot to talk about there. Let's move on to the Chargers, who I think will had one of the best drafts out of any team.
Again, like clockwork, they just get value.
And they did up and down the board. So, Rashawn Slater falls to them at 13. Many thought he could be the first offensive lineman gone. So, first and foremost, protecting your long-term asset in Justin Herbert. So, nothing you can argue about there. They did that. They got Corey Linsley out of Green Bay. Brian Bulaga, another former Green Bay lineman. They're looking pretty good along the offensive line as well, are the Chargers. They did bring in Trey McKitty, who's a guy at tight end. Jared Cook right now figures to either start or Trey McKitty could have some long-term value, but ultimately didn't really test. So, black box prospect.
I got numbers from Player Profiler.
Oh, did you finally?
It's pretty
ugly.
It's average.
Average, yeah.
I'm not expecting Trey McKitty to go out there and take
anything.
Over. Yeah, it's production's weak, athletic profile's weak.
So one thing I don't know a lot about is their third round pick, Josh Palmer.
I just looked him up. Best comparable per playerprofiler.com is Jacoby Jones. So a deep threat, right? Athletic profile,
which they needed.
Again, average. You're in a 4.57, 40, but he's looking at 40 to high 50% percentiles across the board in terms of his athletic ability.
119
productive.
0.8 burst. Yeah, not highly productive.
Tennessee is pretty fucking terrible for when it comes to collegiate production. So
not a guy you're gonna
head scratching
love.
pick when it happened, but a pick you have to respect the way that we had to respect Kenny Galladay when he was taken by the Lions. You're gonna have to kind of respect Josh Palmer.
Yep.
And the wide receiver room sans Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Very thin. So
very, very thin.
I'm gonna have to. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have to go watch film on Josh Palmer and see if it was Tennessee being shitty or what it was, to see if he's gonna have a chance to potentially break in there as a third wide receiver or somebody that could be a late round flyer. They did also take Eli Stove. I did watch film on, or I did look up Eli Stove. I remember his name. Nothing great there. So he was a college free agent, actually. So
they just like wide receivers from bad offenses.
Larry Roundtree taken as a running back. Roundtree is not great. I don't think he's going to do anything to challenge Kelly Jackson or Austin Eckler for roster position.
Literally, he's below average, Jay.
Yeah, he's just a guy. So
he's just a guy. They
started off very strong. Yes, is the way to do it. Asante Samuel Jr., by the way, they drafted him as well, cornerback. He should plug in and replace the absence of Casey Hayward. Now, big shoes to fill, but it does help out a bit there, as does getting Derwin James back. They're still going to be lacking quite a bit on defense. So, not in the pass rush, obviously, with Joey Bosa, but in other areas, there's going to be some things there to be desired that you have to see them step up. And they didn't do a lot to address that either, which I think, other than Asante Samuel, third, fourth round picks, you would like to see maybe a little bit more there. Chris, they did take a linebacker in the fourth. Don't know a lot about him. I don't do that. And they took, again, nobody really other than Eli Stove. And that's just name cachet, really, in the UDFA rounds. Let's move on to Vegas.
Vegas Raiders.
Yikes.
Three fucking safeties.
You can only start
2 through 4.
You can only start 2, by the way. Just most teams will only play 2.
And most of them they've drafted have either sucked or can't stay healthy.
Right.
You may have found the worst draft.
They took no skill players.
Yikes.
Their first round pick was Alex Leatherwood, so they did try to address that. But for a team that has holes at wide receiver, and I mean gaping, glaring, like nobody's proven anything, holes at wide receiver. We like Bryan Edwards on this show. Bryan Edwards just kept all the hype around Bryan Edwards there.
He's still there.
Yeah, because he's still there, and that's
they only brought in John Brown. They lose Nelson Aguilar.
Right.
Darren Waller legitimately might get 150, 175 targets.
He very well could, because Hunter Renfrow, Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, and they bring in John Brown, who should see some target volume. Draft worked out great for Bryan Edwards, is basically what that boils down to.
I mean, the UDFAs where they address the skill position, they signed 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and a tight end. Matt Bushman, I guess, is a noteworthy because outside of injuries, I believe is what it was. I saw, again, not a highlight scouting, but saw some highlights posted on Twitter of Matt Bushman doing insane things.
Sure, but it's not where you want him to land with Darren Waller. So
no, but
yeah. So I mean,
there's nobody else there to make plays. So
yeah, it's noteworthy. Maybe they do run 12. Alex Leatherwood, also high, 21st pick in the first round. I mean, he went before other people you would expect to go. He was a mid-second rounder to a lot of people.
He went before Dershaw. It's because of the Mike Mabb's love of the SEC.
Right. So yeah, not a great draft if you're the Oakland Raiders, and not a lot to talk about there.
Where are we moving to next?
I'm out of beer, so I'm going to move
we should probably do a review.
Quick beer review so I can get another one.
That's a good idea.
So I had locals only cream ale. That is brewed in Rhode Island. It is from Rejects Beer Company. Overall, very solid cream ale. Lightly sweet, like you'd expect. Definitely got that sweet corn note to it. Very light, very easy drinking. Cream ales are kind of simpler recipes and a little hard to screw up. But when they're done right, they're really done right. They're very crushable. I wouldn't say that it jumped out at me huge by any means, but it's solid. And that's, it's like the first couple rounds of the Chargers draft. It's very solid. That's it. That's what I got. Go ahead and give your beer review. I'm going to go ahead and grab another beer.
I did. Revolution Straight Jacket. Like the Vikings draft. Extremely well-rounded with massive, exciting picks across the board. More on that next week when we dive into the NFC Straight Jacket, though. Just great. You get a medium-ish body for a bourbon barrel-aged barley wine. A lot of the toffee goodness, sweetness, vanilla from the barrel. This is such a well-put-together beer. One of my favorites every year to look for. Again, Revolution, Straight Jacket, clocks into 15%. So your boy's feeling a little bit toasty. But that's all I got. We're waiting for Hopper to get back, so I'll make a executive choice. Let's move to the AFC South. We'll get to Hopper's second team.
We're doing the AFC South now.
We'll do the AFC South.
Okay, let's do the AFC South.
We'll let you soapbox paint Jacksonville for us, which I believe is the first team, right?
Houston's ahead of them.
No, Houston, which we do not need. So God, yikes.
No, so
it's fucking oof.
Yeah, oof.
But
it's a team with a lot of holes too. So Davis Mills, a lot made about the Davis Mills pick. Their first pick that they had, not until the third round, but they used it on a quarterback. So
their first pick for the draft for them.
Yeah.
Like, this is an important. This is the way we talked about Cam Akers for the Rams last year. It speaks of volumes what Houston thought of their first pick was to make sure they have some sort of insurance
outside of Tyrod Taylor. So if Tyrod Taylor starts the season,
Mills is
you might want to look into Davis Mills because he's going to start after week 2.
Not a lot of reps for Mills, but he was touted by the film guys. I'll trust him there. You got to take him, in your super flex redraft league or your super flex rookie leagues, your rookie drafts. I like the Nico Collins pick. He should be able to, fill in opposite of Brandon Cooks from day one. There's nobody else there in terms of competition.
Yeah. Nico Collins is a guy that caught fire kind of late in the draft process too, as far as Twitter goes. I feel like I didn't really see a ton on Nico Collins until
again wasted away
in Michigan. Yep.
4-star recruit. He did outproduce Donovan Peoples-Jones. Higher recruit drafted by Cleveland last year. Collins, decent. I believe decent athletic build, but
yeah, no, athletic numbers were very good. Agility score was definitely up there. Speed score okay. Burst score very, very good. 6'4", 215, so he is likely going to play outside. But he's definitely athletic enough to do it. It's kind of like Palmer, who was another pick in the middle rounds to where, except Collins' profile is a little bit better.
And Collins will likely, I won't say likely. There's a very good chance, though, he does start. Again, we don't know what the quarterback situation looks like. We do know that we're likely going to see some form of Tyrod Taylor early on as we kind of wait and see what happens with Watson and that whole situation. We know that Houston's team is going to be probably one of the worst, if not the worst team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's Randall
year.
Cobb, Andre Roberts, Brandon Cooks tied in with Collins. So
It's
he should take that spot from Andre Roberts, I would think.
there's a lot. Dante Moncrief's there.
I saw that.
Kiki Kuti.
Chris Conley.
Just oh my god, this is a cast of shitty toys. Like
It is.
you don't even like these weren't toys you played with prior. Like, these are the toys you got, from your second uncle that you see once a year on Christmas. The random gift that he gives you.
Yep.
You just throw it off to the side, and that's who these fucking guys are.
Yeah, they did take Brevin Jordan, who's a guy that they got some talking going early in the draft capital. He was part of what was supposed to make this class unique, and very much did not pan out that way. Athletic numbers were very meh. Productivity numbers were definitely there for him, but the athletic numbers were meh, and he lands on a spot where Akins is flashed. I think Kahale Waring, who's been hurt, was kind of a better prospect than what Brevin Jordan was.
Super raw, but we like him. He's just very raw prospect.
So, inconsistent blocker. Didn't really showcase ability to use his frame, even at 6'3", 245, which isn't huge for a tight end anyway. So kind of just a guy to me, Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, he's nothing to get too excited about for Houston's draft.
No, nothing to get excited about at all. And even UDFA, they didn't hit that hard. So Marlon Williams, most notable name there. He's a very reliable slot pass catcher out of UCF. Not hyper athletic, though, or anything. So didn't really light anything up. He could be a guy, though, that finds his way onto the roster just because, again, it's a really thin wide receiver room. And
12 wide receivers.
He was
right now. 12.
Yeah. And Marlon Williams,
if he makes the team, probably practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, he was very productive, I guess, is the biggest thing with Marlon Williams. Athletic profile wasn't there. Did have 2,200 yards, 157 career receptions, which, both above board. Went over 1,000 yards on 71 receptions in his best college season. So, not huge numbers, but enough.
Whatever to me.
Yep, whatever. All right, moving on to Indianapolis, which is also ahead of Jacksonville.
They're all the first three.
First three all right there, though. So, moving on to Indy.
Oof.
Yeah, a little oof. First and foremost, getting Kwity Paye at the end of the round. A lot of people had him as either him or Phillips, basically. Paye was kind of a little bit of a safer route, but had him as a top tier pass rusher, I guess. So that helps because they definitely didn't have a lot going on in the pass rush last year. So that helps them. But as far as anything else, Kylan Granson at SMU is not a guy that rang a lot of bells at the tight end position. Mike Strachan, guy out of Charleston, small school guy going in the 7th round. Probably not going to crack the roster with this team, given the depth that they have at the position. But he was a small school guy that did produce. I did actually watch film on him.
Big. 6'5", 226.
He's a big dude that I believe tested well.
He's got tight end written all over him. For that, he's at the undersized for the move tight end. I will look it up.
He's 4'5", 40, 10'18", 123 burst, 11.32 agility. So, athleticism was there. He's 6'5", 226, so he definitely could go to a move tight end role if that's what they decide they want to do. I did watch his film. Like I said, I think he might have been the last person I watched or one of the last people I watched.
Because Charleston didn't play football this year. His
Yeah.
last productive season was 2019.
Yeah.
Productive, 78 catches, 19 touchdowns, over 1,300 yards. No receiving, no special teams. So obviously, with guy his size, you wouldn't want him out there anyways. But a name.
Yeah, just small school guy that that did some things. One other thing, they did take Sam Ellinger in the 6th round, whose tape was gross, but productivity wasn't what I'd call terrible.
He ran a lot.
Yeah, he'll at least compete with Jacob Eason for backup duties. So I don't think that's going to be that much of a competition, but the Colts also will tend to keep a third quarterback around or a practice squad QB around at minimum. So 6th round draft capital says that he's likely going to at least hang around on a roster. But we really liked Jacob Eason last year.
Yeah, we do.
I got a lot else to talk about with the Colts. That also was a pretty mad draft. Kylan Granson's not a guy that radars for me. Like, I don't even recognize the name.
No.
Nor should I. Okay, good.
They brought in 3 playmakers from UDFA. Tyler Vaughn's from USC.
Yeah.
Trey Black, another guy wasted from Michigan, transfers to Texas. I don't know who Deion Jackson is. Vaughn's just not great. He kept getting overshadowed by other receivers there,
like St. Brown,
Michael Pittman, Drake London. So these guys, again, practice squad won't make the team. With this, with this Colts team, trying to vie for a playoff spot, they're just bodies, and unless something happens,
pretty much, yep. So not a lot to talk about there. Let's go to Jacksonville. A little more exciting. Trevor Lawrence, obvious. Don't need to give a whole lot of analysis there. It happened. I am happy that it happened. And now it becomes, what did they do around Trevor Lawrence? So the first thing they did is they came out and got Travis Etienne at the end of the 1st round. So 1st round draft capital in a backfield that has no depth. Etienne's
him and James Robinson.
Etienne has solidified himself as the 2nd running back pick. Not that he wasn't, but he is the 2nd running back pick. It didn't do anything to change tiers with Williams, who's also going to have quite the share. But the draft capital in Etienne, along with only James Robinson being there, is awesome. Despite Urban Meyer's idiot quote of, well, we're going to use him as a 3rd down back, and Robinson and Hyde, we see them as our 1-2 punch. Like, bullshit. If you traded up to the end of the 1st round to take a 3rd down back, you're an idiot. So
Travis Etienne's going the way of Cam Akers, right? James Robinson's a better Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
He'll hold on to that role likely year 1. Like, I still like Etienne a lot.
Get out on James Robinson when you can.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you might as well hold him, because if anything were to happen to Etienne year 1, Robinson has that unique path, the Chris Carson type of relevancy if something were to happen to Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't obviously pray for that. So you just got to hold and hope that there is a window at some point.
Yep. Some other things that are notable. Tyson Campbell at cornerback, good piece for them out of Georgia. A lot of length to him. Walker Little out of Stanford. Address the offensive line and protect your young quarterback. He's going to plug in the other tackle spot. They also have Jawan Taylor, Cam Robinson. So
I love the Andre Cisco pick.
Yeah, not a bad line. And Cisco's a good pick, too.
I love, when I did my scouting for the Vikings for our Twitter mock draft, Cisco was a name I circled as a perfect Harrison Smith replacement at some point. Cisco is I love this pick.
Yeah,
big fan of his.
If you're an IDP, Cisco's going to be a solid pick at that safety position, just because safety's ready to get points.
He can play all over the field. He's got speed and the range to play free safety. He can play up in the box. And
he's not going to have a problem using their 3rd round pick cracking that starter spot, given what they have there.
Love this pick.
Luke Farrell out of Ohio State, again, not a guy that really registered for me. He did have some flashes, though. It is also a team that needs a tight end. We like Josh Oliver, but Josh Oliver can't stay healthy. So, Chris Manhertz isn't going to be it. So he immediately slots in. basically, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking for Josh Oliver on this depth chart, and he's not even there, so I don't know what happened with that.
How you went to the Jets for some
Did he?
reason. I may be wrong.
No, you might be right. I may have just missed it because it's not something we would have.
No, he's not there.
Okay, I don't know where he is. He's somewhere. I know he's out there. He's somewhere out there.
Or he's just not there.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So they took a good step in their rebuild. And then going out and getting DJ Daniels is a UDFA solid move. He's a guy that actually did show up some on tape for me. Emator Beebe, very, very raw, but super athletic wide receiver out of Illinois. Also a good pickup on that front for them. Not that they need it this year with Chark Jones and Chenault. I mean, those are your starters easily.
Yeah. Yep.
They also have depth. We saw a bit out of Colin Johnson last year. Probably a practice squad guy for Emator Beebe is Colin Johnson, and then either Dorsett or Terry Godwin will likely make the roster, or Agnew as a returner. But just something to know, just in case.
Names to know, for sure.
But overall, I like their draft. I thought that they did pretty good addressing positions in need, especially with their first 5 picks or so. So, not a bad start.
Titans.
Except my other arrow went away. There it is.
Uh-oh.
I found it. We're good. So Tennessee, they go Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. This is something that I had mocked there. Highly athletic cornerback, ton of speed. They lost to Dory Jackson. This is almost a 1-for-1 replacement. So, I thought they did good there. They went out and got a tackle in the second round of a deep class, which, offensive line to the style of football they play is invaluable. Des Fitzpatrick out of Louisville and Racy McMath, which McMath is another all-time name, out of LSU. Not really going to crack your radars as Corey Davis replacements. So
it's pretty
A.J. Brown all day. It's pretty
A.J.
weak.
Brown, Josh Reynolds,
Yeah.
and Anthony Frisker.
Yeah.
Names to know.
Names to know because
Brown's not going to get 300 targets. So
no, McMath is a speedster. He was always overshadowed there, though. I don't know a lot about Fitzpatrick. He played for Louisville, which is another team that you don't look at and say.
he broke out with when Lamar Jackson was still there. Didn't do much with them. Eventually got replaced by Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
And then he just became an outside body.
Yep.
That's just
6.2202. Career productivity was good. Season productivity, not great. Athleticism was meh. So I bet he's just a guy by the time it's all said and done.
He probably makes a team because he's an early day 3 pick. That's about it.
Well, yeah, and the fact that there's not
There's
a lot
no
of depth there. So, yeah. And as far as UDFAs go for Tennessee, I don't know.
Whole lot of.
They got a punter, Miller Forrestall out of Alabama,
And a kicker.
Blake Hobble. Okay, Briley
Look at that.
Moore. So Briley Moore is an interesting guy that I want to talk about for a second at the tight end position. Now, Johnny Smith gone, so it's Anthony Ferkser, Jeff Swain, Jared Pickney. Briley Moore is a guy that, if I remember correctly, and I'm looking it up now just so I'm not an idiot, profiled very, very well from an athletic standpoint. 6'4", 250, so he has some size. Very athletic guy. Also, a ton of productivity for his career. Some injury issues, but, he profiles as a guy that definitely could be something. Again, UDFA, he has a chance to make the roster. Probably not something you're going to – it's a very thin tight end class if you're in need of a tight end. So it's a name you should know because of the athletic profile and where he landed in the thinness of that tight end depth chart.
Yep. Those I agree with.
Cool. I'm glad you agree with me. That makes me feel better. I mean, somewhere in my cold, dead heart.
You're like, God, he really does care about the Tennessee Titans UDFA tight end pickup.
Well, I mean, tight ends are so thin that
I know.
Outside, if you need one and you don't get in on Pitts, which is going to be hard, or Fryermuth, then you got to look for names and take a dart throw, especially if you're rebuilding.
Especially, for people out there looking for later in, guys to just highlight, what could be a wide open, a tight end room in Tennessee with the absence of Jonnu Smith. So,
indeed. All right.
Last one. East.
Buffalo Bills. Went defense heavy to start with Carlos Basham, Gregory Rousseau. Now, good news is, damn, is that going to help their pass rush? Oh. That is a great add to their pass rush for a team that doesn't have a lot of holes.
I love this draft.
That was those are both just hella good moves.
All trenches. They went
all trenches.
Pants are up in the trenches. Marquez Stevens.
Yeah,
it's going to be their John Brown replacement once he's healthy.
Carlos Basham. They went Spencer Brown out of Iowa, who another guy that could easily crack in if they need him to at a tackle position. He'll at least compete. I mean, they're not terrible on the offensive line as it is, but it just gives him more options. Tommy Doyle right after that out of Miami of Ohio. Not a lot to talk about here skill position, but really the only thing you were looking at Buffalo to do skill position-wise would have been a running back, because with Beasley, Diggs, and Gabe Davis, and the addition of Emmanuel Sanders, 1 through 4, and then you figure some old show favorites and Tanner Gentry and Jake Kumaro also hanging around on that roster. I mean,
Marcus Stevenson at 34 kickoff, 38 special teams in college. He could potentially fill in nicely as that return man. I think that's where his role starts if he makes the roster.
Yeah, 5'10", 180, not very big. 4'5",
super fast,
40, 4'5", 40. So not ton of long speed, but 10.9 agility is hella good. So he definitely looks like a return.
The film showed otherwise, at least when I watched him, because I highlighted him when I was doing some of my debut.
That agility is badass, though. That agility score is tits. Which, again, quickness is good. And he was productive as well. So, I mean, he's a piece for sure. Not a high enough draft pick to be lose your shit over, but like you said, Dan,
no, he's nothing
he's
special.
Definitely
at all.
Could very well be a return guy and make this roster. The UDFA side of things, they didn't do a whole lot worth noting. They didn't have to. It's a team that doesn't have a lot of holes, and they went out and just, like you said, they went straight to trenches with their first 4 picks, and you can't hate on that.
No, I mean, that's what you should do. If you don't have a lot of holes, just keep filling up spots that could see a lot of injuries due to, constant contact. So.
Yep, indeed, and that's exactly what they did.
And no running back. Zach Moss
survived.
Violent winner of this through the draft.
Yeah, no running back there at all, which Zach Moss survives. I mean, I guess with Josh Allen, you don't really need one, but
hence I think, well over 100 increase in pass attempts. Buffalo knows what they know. They don't need a running game. They just need someone that's, good enough to take advantage of it when called upon.
For sure. So here's another team that I thought had a very good draft in Miami. Adding Jalen Waddle. So first off, are we surprised that Jalen Waddle went as a second wide receiver off the board?
So rumor has it Waddle was number 1 on their board. Which there's people out there that were higher on Waddle than Smith. I'm so shocked that anybody had anybody higher than Chase on their board.
Yeah.
But Waddle obviously played with injuries. He produced at a younger age when compared to Smith in terms of their years. He was on pace, better than Smith through the 4 games he played healthy this year. Obviously, small sample size, not worth a lot. Waddle is hyper fast. He's a more complete receiver than what Henry Ruggs was coming out. And he gets to sit. I don't know how much he'll play, or at least how productive he'll be year 1. But Will Fuller, I think, is a pretty good got to look at, hyper speed deep threats that, carve out a role for long term.
And our lads hasn't been
got to learn.
And our lads hasn't penciled into the slot, which I think is where he's really going to thrive as a speed slot guy, given what I saw in his film. The route tree was a little limited for playing outside, but in the slot, man, the dude is a problem. And
he gets paired back up with Tua.
Yeah, and he does.
There's some already built-in chemistry.
And he does everything. I mean, he doesn't just do deep balls, like you said. He works slants, in routes, post, tricky wee-woo stuff. And, maybe Jalen Waddle's curl route is to me what Brad Kaya's play action was for you. But I love the fact that for a guy that has that much speed, he sells the curl route so well. It's almost like a major league pitcher having a fire fastball and a good changeup that they tunnel on the same plane with the same release point.
What a fucking callback to Brad Kaya.
Right. I know.
That play action, though. Jesus God, we've been doing this for too fucking long.
But I love that combination that Waddle can throw at people because you have to play him off. But he's so agile with so much burst, too, that if you bite on that 9 route and he throws a curl at you, I mean, you're done. You're cooked.
And this team performed well last year. Like, this was a damn near playoff team.
Yeah.
You get a full offseason of Tua. Now you surround them with playmakers with the addition of Fuller and now Waddle through the draft. Combined with Parker Gesicki. And then bringing in Hunter Lawn, third round, tight end pick who, a lot of the film and the analytical guys liked. Miami had a low-key good draft. And outside of Buffalo will likely win that division. I think they're in competition for one of the wild card spots. So I like what Miami did. They didn't spend high on a running back. You get to see Myles Gaskin survive, which is good for us. We've liked Myles Gaskin from the beginning.
But
go ahead.
I want to touch on your running back point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
They did bring in a bigger back at 6'1", 225, though, which is good. And remember, Myles Gaskin, also a 7th-round pick. But
he's also performed already.
He has. So I'm not. No. I'm not. This isn't a hate on Myles Gaskin thing. This is a compliment Myles Gaskin thing. And Jared Dokes does do that. He's a little bit older, but he's a guy that I highlighted as one of those older backs in kind of that middle tier that if he landed in a spot with opportunity, I think you absolutely had to pay attention to. He's a better runner than Ahmed, and he complements Gaskin very, very well. Remember, Gaskin's a little bit smaller of a dude. They tried to do a Jordan Howard thing, and it didn't necessarily pan out. They tried to do a Matt Breida thing, didn't necessarily pan out. Dokes gives him a big back for short yardage and touchdown type scenarios. It almost makes him worth a dart throw at the end of some drafts, just because there is draft capital there, and it's a thin running back class. Downhill runner with good size. He can be used as a satellite back in the receiving game. Good burst and stride. Vision was perfectly okay. There was nothing elite, but he just showed as very, very solid when I watched him. So I'm a fan of the Dokes pick in the 7th round because I think he fits a need for them.
I mean, it's perfect, right? Because Miami, a lot of people, such a popular mock spot for Naji Harris, for Travis Etienne, for Javonto Williams, and Miami goes the correct route. Instead of fucking around with these day 2, day 1 running backs, they go day 3. Myles Gaskin, Josh Larkey, shout out to Larkey again, pointed out that he was he was literally on pace with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler, he played the same amount of games. Eckler, he averaged 16.5 points per game. Gaskin was 16.3. Yeah. So it's not like Gaskin sucked when he came. And then, Ahmed shined in his lone spot.
When Gaskin was hurt.
Came back, and it was his fucking role again. Like, wheels off for Gaskin this year. Obviously, 7th round pick. He doesn't mean he's going to have a lot of long-term dynasty value. You probably want to sell if you're not competing. But he does offer you, especially redraft league, he does offer you upside this year.
And not to be that guy, but I've been on Myles Gaskin since his draft season.
You and I
didn't fall. Yeah, you too. Didn't fall off of that bandwagon at all, even when he went 7th round because of the opportunity he landed in.
I mean, there was always a bit of concern that he could get James Robinson, but we trust Miami as showing competent moves we've liked for the last couple of years. And this just continues that.
Well, and it's what does the team tell you, right? I mean, Jacksonville told you one thing by trading, or not by trading up, but by spending a first-round pick on ETN, whereas Miami said, yeah, we're not even going to take it back until the 7th round. And then it's still going to be somebody that's a complimentary piece, not somebody that you look at and say, this is a direct replacement for this guy.
It's traded, yeah. It's this was the Rams pick, but
yeah,
we knew who the better run team is, just based on what they decided to do with the running back position. So, great draft by Miami.
Yeah, no, very good. Moving on to the Patriots. McCorkle, round 1, pick 15.
I mean, he landed in the spot that I think he's going to thrive in the most.
Yeah, McDaniels is going to know how to use him just like Sarkisian knew how to use him. The question for McCorkle now is how quickly does he start? How quickly does he unseat Cam Newton? I think Cam Newton starts the first game of this season. I think if he struggles, McCorkle's
he's
in.
got a short leaf.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Cam doesn't start. Like, I'm going to pull up his contract situation, but
it's a 1-year deal.
I mean, I'm sure Newton's on the roster. Yeah, they don't save shit if they cut him, obviously. So
yeah, 1-year deal, mostly guaranteed, I think.
Mostly guaranteed, yeah. No, I think McCorkle. I think they can ease him in there if they need to. They don't have a lot of playmakers there. That's the only downside, is that there's not a whole lot that he can thrive with the way that he had in Alabama. But he doesn't need to play year one, which is great for him because, again, he only had, 17, 18 career starts. Highly efficient. Obviously, he doesn't have the mobile upside of that of a Cam Newton, but it's like we talked about. He landed into a system that thrived and made hey do with Tom Brady for so long.
Yeah.
And so
are we at all surprised that they didn't spend a 3rd or a 4th round pick to try to get more, a 2nd or a 3rd round pick to try to get more offensive weapons, particularly at the receiver position? And what was a
historically they don't. I mean, they never take any skill positions.
Well, I know historically they don't, but there's also the argument for maybe we've always done it this way doesn't work. It's now, especially in today's NFL.
We're about to find out.
Yeah,
truly.
You're going into a season with, again, Nelson Aguilar proved he could produce. He's going to be a popular mid-round pick this year. Jacoby Myers, another guy that was he was a college free agent that I didn't back off of and had ranked highly, showed he can produce relatively consistently as well. So, I mean, you don't hate that, but at the same time, you don't look at this and say, here's a 1. Myers and Aguilar are both nice complementary pieces. They're both favorites of mine. I love both of those players, but I don't look at those two plus Kendrick Bourne and say, I love this, and N'Keal Harry's been a bust to this point.
I mean, they paid heavily for both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
Right.
Suggesting a lot of 2 tight end. They're trying to replicate the Gronk and and the Hernandez era.
Yep. And that's how they're going to run it. That's how they're going to have to. So, I mean, again, good for Jacoby Myers playing the Wes Welker role, I guess, and the Julian Edelman role out of the slot.
I want nothing of this offense for fantasy this year. Nelson Aguilar in best ball because he should be the 1 for most of the year. But for actual redraft, I just don't.
Jacoby Myers is the type of guy that I like on my rosters, and you know that.
I know
Floor, you know.
Yeah,
he won me a game last year because he caught 14 balls.
He won me a couple games last year, but they obviously they told us how they felt about their receiving core by bringing in 4 different pass catchers. So,
but Smith, Henry, Bourne, and Aguilar. I mean, not exact. The wide receiver is not a who's who. But the other thing it did too is that when you brought in Bourne and Aguilar, you didn't replace Myers. You're not moving Myers outside, and you don't unless you believe in Gunnar Olszewski. You're not. I guess if they keep because Bourne isn't going to start ahead of Harry, so I'd expect this opens up with Harry and Aguilar outside, Myers in the slot for 3 wide receiver sets.
That's if they run 3.
And if they don't,
Smith and Henry, that type of money and plus 2 tight ends from last year, 3rd-round picks.
Well, Keenan and Asiasi, though, are both more blocking tight ends.
It just suggests a lot of 2 tight ends, a lot of, bigger, heavy sets.
Sure, and it does. And I don't disagree with the take that Aguilar is your go-to in best ball, but I am also going to keep my hat in the ring on Jacoby Myers as somebody I want to keep around as a guy that has a solid floor.
I support you supporting your boost. So
yep. Ramondre Stevenson came in. He's a guy. Yep, he's a guy.
He's a guy.
So Chris Collinsworth is going to love him.
He's a big guy. 5'11", 231.
Yep. I don't have a lot else to say about Ramondre Stevenson, though. He didn't even qualify for a watch. He was athletically not good. So
his best comparable is Peyton Barber.
Right, which tells you all you need to know there. Some people saying that he could have Michelle's roster spot. No, this is going to be...
I think this is Damian Harris's backfield.
It's Damian Harris's backfield. It's James White could get some receiving work, but we saw that really fall off. So.
I'm hearing it wouldn't even surprise me if he doesn't make the team.
Yeah,
there's no need
in Sonny Michel.
Yeah, it's just basically Damian Harris, Cam Newton, and the 2 tight ends and Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah,
I think that's their main sets.
Yeah. As far as other things they added in the draft, they were, nothing really of note there. Trey Nixon, a 7th-round wide receiver, not a guy that has a lot of cachet behind him. No UDFAs.
That's impressive. That's okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that is impressive. And now
the Jets,
a team that surprisingly did things that I really liked. The New York Jets.
If I'm a Jets fan,
their first 4
rounds,
to
get excited.
I am super freaking excited about this. So, Zack Wilson, 2nd pick. We beat that horse to death. Zack Wilson was given every weapon he could possibly need to succeed, and absolutely, after Trevor Lawrence, is your surefire quarterback too, given what the Jets have shown. They suddenly have very formidable offensive weapons. They've traded up and got Elijah Vera Tucker to help solidify that offensive line, which is somewhere they desperately needed help. Dan, you had some concerns about Zack Wilson under pressure. So we know he's mobile, but he should get better, and this is going to help. They have brought in Greg Van Roten, Connor McGovern, Mekhi Becton from last year, and then you bring in Elijah Vera Tucker. I mean, that offensive line is set. You still have Chris Herndon at tight end, Corey Davis in free agency with Denzel Mims on the other side, and then you turn around in the 2nd round and you bring in Elijah Moore, who they already had a good slot guy in Jamison Crowder. Moore can also play outside, but you bring in a versatile, highly athletic, highly productive wide receiver on high draft capital that, I love what they did with those first picks. And then you turn around in the 4th round on a team with not a lot of running backs, and you bring in Michael Carter, who athletic, qualifies. We were curious where Michael Carter's draft capital was going to be. A 4th round I'm okay with on a team that needs a back, because I think he's immediately more talented than LaMichael Pirine.
Oh yeah, that should be I don't really care much beyond for dynasty wise. I'm pretty notorious that they don't get day 2 or higher capital. They don't have ideal back size, ideal, 3 back size. I'm not going to care as much. I'm okay being Ron on Michael Carter. I wasn't that impressed with him, especially I would have liked to see a little bit better athletic profile, but He lands into the second weakest, right next to Elena, in a backfield that should see production, that should see opportunity fairly early on. And, I just want to cut back to Elijah Moore. Jamison Crowder, I don't know. I can't, I'm sitting there on Sports Track. He carries on $1 million dead cap on a $10.3 million contract.
He could get cut.
I don't know what screams cut candidate more than what potentially could be Jamison Crowder. Yeah. You don't spend a day 3 pick or a round 3 pick on Denzel Mims last year and a round 2 pick, high round 2, the second pick.
Mims was a second rounder.
Was it? Okay, that's right. Mims was second. He was a late second. That's right, late second. More high, pick 34, 202. And then you bring in, Corey Davis. I don't think Crowder makes this roster. And you run with the 2 young guns and the veteran and Davis. With the improved offensive line, you have Chris turned in. You bring in UDFA, Kenny Ayoba from Ole Miss, who is also a pretty popular tight end prospect. Like even if you don't believe in Zack Wilson, you have to believe that the Jets actually did the correct thing, improve the O-line highly, and then bring in playmakers.
And I believe in Zack Wilson. Board. So
yeah, I mean you do.
This is a hell of a draft.
I'm not as high on him as you, but I do believe in the upside. And he's still the 102. He's still the second pick overall. Yeah, he's going to have every sort of chance to start day one with Darnold. With Darnold.
And he's in a much better situation than Sam Darnold was ever in.
He hasn't even he hasn't even stepped onto the field yet, and he has already a better receiving core, an offensive line, and a backfield than what Darnold had. That's embarrassing to the Jets and Darnold and himself, but Zack Wilson should have every sort of chance to prove everybody right or wrong from day one.
Nope, he absolutely should. I love their draft, really. You look at what they did in the top rounds of that draft, and I don't know that it gets much more better or much more chalk on we addressed needs and we got better.
They like Michael Carter so much, they drafted the safety version
of Michael Carter
too.
Yeah.
They're one more away from creating a Little Wayne Carter series here too. So
they are, they are indeed. So yeah, I'm excited for the Jets. If I look at the AFC, and you ask me what teams am I truly just giddy excited about now, and who got better, I look at Cincinnati. I look at. I like what the Chargers did the first couple rounds, but I look at the Jets. Cincinnati and the Jets really jump out to me as, holy hell, we got better. The Bills improved their pass rush. Some other teams addressed individual needs, but as far as teams that just did what they needed to do to improve overall, those jump out, but I don't think anybody spread the love as far as improving in as many areas as they needed to improve in and doing it in a way that appears to be successful than the New York Jets.
Cincy and the Jets.
Cincy. I get it now.
Cincy.
He's not trying to sell it.
No, I'm not. It's a great draft by the Jets.
No, it absolutely is. All right, that wraps up the AFC. Cool. So, any final thoughts on those teams? Talked about who did it well. As far as who kind of flubbed it, Las Vegas.
Clearly.
Houston didn't have a lot to work with, so if I'm looking at somebody that really just effed that thing up, it's Vegas.
I love the Browns. I think it's my favorite. And from a team that, I know, their history with the Ravens. There's no other team outside of the Vikings and Ravens I think I'm going to root more for
than Browns.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that's my grandpa. And just with how they've turned around that entire franchise within 3 seasons, from the Baker draft draft last year, and then this year was just plug it in depth. I love Buffalo's draft with not, doubling down on the running back for a third straight year and just getting trench pieces. The Jets, I think, in making key, regardless of what you think about Zack Wilson, they made key strides. And then the Chargers, at least with it, like you said, with the top end. So it wasn't the most exciting draft. Some of these running backs kind of got the shit under the stick, and some of the receivers did too. So, and of course, I love Baltimore. So that's my ending thoughts. Let's wrap this shit up.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in and for listening. We'll be back next week to cover the NFC in the same format. So a little different, trying to combine a couple episodes so we can get to more Beerfield Does type stuff in the off season. So if you're wondering what that is and still listening at this point, that's the idea that
hey, thank you.
What's that?
I said, hey, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
This long.
That's the idea that just we're going to do some things that are non-football related during non-peak football times instead of trying to find shit to talk about. So, yeah, that's about all I got. We'll be back next week, 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. And we'll cover the NFC set of the draft, and then we'll figure it out from there.
See you guys next week.
I was not prepared to end this show.
We're not, but it's all right.